let's start the configuration of DSS PRO and ANPR. Before we start the configuration, please ensure that you are installing the right version of firmware for ITC ANPR camera and also the right version for the DSS PRO. The version for DSS PRO will be updated frequently, so you have to ensure with your system integrator that the version you have purchased is the right one. So in order to start the installation, double click this DSS Pro installation file and it will automatically start the installation. So once the installation is complete, your server will be start to operate. So this is the operation status of your server. As you can see here, all the services will be running. And once the installation is completed, please check your CMS IP, that is your NIC card IP is the correct one that you have chosen. Once this IP is configured, you have to click Open Administrator Client. When you click Open Administrator Client, it will automatically direct you to the web client of DSS Pro. And then here you have to enter the username and password. So the first time when you're doing it, it will ask you to set your username and password. Username will be system and the password you can enter it. Along with that, you will be able to enter the security questions. Okay, so once you have successfully created the account, you can log in with that particular account. So once the login is over, the next step will be to register the license. So the license can be registered in two ways. One is online, the other one is offline. So this license is usually you will get the license from your system integrator when you're buying the software itself. So for online license, you just have to click it and then you enter the license key and then it will be over. Whereas for the offline, the procedure is little bit elaborate where you have to enter the license key, then you have to export a document called license request file, and this license request file should be uploaded to the link that is given in the offline activation link. When you click this, it will divert you to another web page where you can upload the license request file and then simultaneously download a license dat file. So this license dat file will be entered, will be uploaded, imported back here, and then you just enter it. It will be the offline activation will be completed. So now in this case, we are going to do online activation. So let's first enter the online the key, security key for this. It would usually take a few seconds to activate. Yes, now this license has been successfully activated. Okay, so now as you can see here, all the services are active now. So these are the major services you will be getting. So in this one, so for the ANPR configuration, now we'll check into what are the things we have to do the configuration. But before that, we also have to download our web client. Sorry, PC client. So for downloading the PC client, in the DSS web client itself, you will be able to download this. And once you click it, it will automatically start downloading the file. This file, as you can see here, this one we have already downloaded it here. So this is the version, you can verify it. This version will be the same as the version of DSS Pro. Okay, so this version, again, you can just click and start the installation. So once the installation is completed, you will have an UI like this. This is the DSS Pro control client. So in the control client, you have to enter the NIC card, that is a CMS IP of the server. After that, you would be able to enter the username and password and log in. As you can see here, this is the control client of DSS Pro. Here you could first change the language of it. Let me change the language to English. After changing the language, you have to restart the client. After changing the language, let's log into the DSS Pro control client. Yeah, as you can see here, the DSS Pro control client has numerous features. And in this feature, the most important part we will be working with for ANPR is the entrance setting. So in order to configure the entrance, first, if you go inside and see, currently we have not configured any ANPR devices. So the first and foremost thing is that you need to configure your ANPR camera, right? So this is the entrance module. So in the entrance module, as you can see that like there is no configuration has been created. So before creating this configuration, let's first add our ITC ANPR camera. So to add a camera or any devices, the first thing is that you have to log into the web client using the IP. And once you log in, you have to go to the device management. Click device management. You can actually see all the Dahua devices in this network in this section. Or you can also use the segment to, if you know the IP of both the cameras or all the ANPR cameras, or you can even directly manually add those cameras here. By clicking add, you will be able to add manually. So in this case, since we already have an ITC ANPR camera, let's click and let's add the device. Okay, so now you have added your ITC camera. So once the camera has been added, enter to the settings. In the setting, there is an option called device category. In the device category, you should always make it as access snapshot device. So the second option will be an access snapshot device. In case you are adding those devices from the NVR, if you're adding those devices within the NVR, the setting will be on the video channel. So in the video channel, again, if you click and open this one, usually in the just like what you have seen in access snapshot device, you will have list of intelligent features. In that, you have to scroll down at the bottom, you will find access snapshot device. So this access snapshot device setting can be set only for the ANPR camera. So once you have made that setting, click enter. So now we have successfully added the device. So after adding it, the next stage is to configure the storage for ANPR pictures. In order to configure, you have to first enter the storage. This is for the storage configuration. Enter the storage configuration. So in the storage configuration, you could directly go for storage configuration part. So there will be two options. One is network disk, the other one is local disk. If your server is in a network disk, which means that your storage part is connected through IPsat, then you will be able to configure the storage in the net disk part. If your server has an inbuilt storage or local storage, then you will be able to configure it in the local storage part, local disk. So in the local disk, you will be able to see all the list of devices, all the list of hard disks available. So in that hard disk part, you have to click and then you have to set what are the type of type of format you have to do the storage hard disk. So in the storage hard disk, you will have three types. One will be video, the second will be ANPR picture, and the third will be face recognition picture. So in this case, we will be configuring it to the ANPR picture. So once you press ANPR picture, click enter, and then this will automatically format your drive to the to store the ANPR pictures. So that is the second step involved in the web client. The third step is ensure that go to the system setting and look for access snapshot device. So this is the access snapshot device configuration days. So here what you are seeing the days is that it shows 120 days. So this configuration ensures that all the images that are stored within the ANPR hard drive is stored for 120 days. This is one of the major MOI requirement for the ANPR. So make sure the setting is in 120 days. And then second of all, this second option is for the time synchronization. Time synchronization is also the key part. We have to ensure that the device, NVR, and the DSS Pro server, all of the three devices are in the same time zone. Okay, so this is the part configuration from the DSS Pro web client. The next is that we have to configure it in the ANPR camera side. So in order to configure the ANPR camera side, first you have to log into the ANPR camera. So ANPR camera's IP, this IP you can, as you can see here in the device management, our IP is 192.168 or 1.108. So using this IP, you can log in to the camera. So once you log into the camera, you may be asked to install the plugin. So once you successfully install the plugin, you will be able to see the live view of the camera in the web browser itself. So once that configuration is done, second, you have to enter, sorry. Okay, so you will have your live view on your left side of the screen. And then once the plugin has been installed, next step is go to the guide. In the guide, ensure that your software version, that is the ITC firmware version, is the latest version. Followed by which, next step, you have to make sure the focus of the camera is according to the scenario. Make sure you can adjust the zoom and focus accordingly according to the installation scenario. Followed by which, ANPR vehicle configuration. So for the vehicle configuration, this also depends upon the scenario and height of the camera installation and the height of the vehicles. So based on this, you can see a sample example is shown on the right side. So based on the sample, you should be able to draw the ANPR snapshot region. So in order to redraw, I'll show you have to click redraw. Then if you have a vehicle accordingly, you can just draw an ANPR detection zone like this. And then the next important thing is the snap line. The snap line is most important because it is on the snap line. Once the vehicle approaches the snap line, the ANPR is triggered for the capturing the license plate. So once it is done, finish. Okay, so once this is done, next you can double check it here in the configure ANPR. As you can see here, I've just made a configuration here. In some cases, if the field of view is much larger, you can also configure the shield area. So shield area is something you draw in order to prevent the unnecessary area. So to avoid the multiple readings or to avoid the vehicles that are passing by. So you can draw two shield areas, one and something like this. And you can manually adjust those also. So once the shield area is also configured, just confirm and you can configure it. So now, as you can see here, the configuration is successfully completed. So whenever the vehicle has been passed through this detections region, you will be able to see the license plate number here, license plate information here, and the captured snapshot will be displayed here, and the information will be displayed on the bottom. In the information part, this is the one important region we have to pay attention to it, where we will be looking at the region, plate, vehicle sign, vehicle type, and plate type. So the region, since we are in Qatar, most of the vehicles will be in the Qatar region, and there is also a possibility for many GCC countries such as Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, or many other Middle Eastern countries vehicles can be there. And then the next would be plate type. So plate type will be based on the Qatar regulation. It should be classified based on private vehicle, transport vehicle, police vehicle, and there are about 15 to 16 types of vehicles. So these plate type will be displayed here. So this is the first step configuration for the ANPR. The next is that go to setting. The next important requirement for the MOI is that the captured image should contain some of the vehicle captured information, that is the OSD. So you also have to configure the OSD. The OSD part is configured in the setting. Click ITC. In that you have an OSD. So in OSD, there is an option called snapshot OSD inside that. So this will be the basic setting or default setting. In the default setting, you can click edit and remove this part. So now you have time, plate information. You can also add plate type. You can also add a region. You can also add it is that yes, vehicle type. So now you have like a multiple information here. So these information will be overlaid on the image itself, which means that all the captured image will have all of these 5 information here. And now confirm. So these are the settings on the camera side. Oh, one more thing you have to ensure is that make sure the camera's time, the recording date and time is synchronized with the server or the NVR time. So you can directly sync PC if you're accessing it through the server. If you have an NTP server, you can enable the NTP server and enter the NTP server IP. So you could use either of it, but in many of the MOI projects, MOI is requesting for an NTP server IP, which means that you could actually enter the IP of your DSS Pro server itself here and synchronize the time according to the server. So these are the settings. You do it in the camera side. So once the camera side and the web client side is configured, the next is that we have to configure it in our control client. So in control client is where majority of the monitoring operations happens. So in this one, as I mentioned earlier, you have to go for entrance. So when you click entrance, you will be directed to this interface. So in this interface, first and foremost step is that configure the parking lot configuration. So in the parking lot configuration, you should be able to configure the parking lot. Here, based on the project name, you can configure one parking lot name, and you can enter the available parking lot space, total parking lot, and you can also enter the available parking lot space. And then you can go to the next step. So in the next step, here as you can see here, you have to add your ANPR channel. Once you click the ANPR channel, it automatically brings out the list of ANPR cameras here. So this setting will be available only if you set the camera into access snapshot device. Only if you keep this camera into access snapshot device, all this entrance will automatically collect this information of that particular camera. If it is added as a normal camera, your camera will not be listed in this part. So once your camera is listed here, you can just click and just enter OK, and you can configure it whether this camera is an entrance camera or exit camera. And then you could just go to next step. If there is any LED signage is there, you can add LED signage. If not, you could just save and exit. Okay. So now in this case, you're going for the license plate recognition. So in the license plate recognition, now that we already have a camera, you could see here. So it is in this location, whenever a vehicle movement is there, all your license plate images will be captured on the right side of the screen. And also in the bottom, you will be having a list of license plate that have been captured recently. So all those images we can capture here, followed by which the next step is, in order to extract all those license plate images, you have to go to the snapshot recording. So in the snapshot recording, you will be able to search based on the number of channels. So based on the number of channels or whichever entrance or exit camera, whatever the channels you have, you could just click it and you can enter the timeline. You can enter the time for it, whichever the time, date and time you need, and then you have different other filter options are there. So in this filter options, there are also some requirement that we also have to be able to filter it based on the type of vehicle, region, or the plate type, or the license plate number. So you will be able to filter out the license plate number based on the instruction you have given here. So based on which you can search it. So all the images that are being captured and stored in the server, you will be able to access it here. So that's it for our configuration for the ANPR access snapshot device cameras. So if you have any queries, please feel free to contact our technician.